All right, so I'd like to thank Casey for asking me to do this about 30 seconds ago. My name's Joel, and I'm married to Kim. It's the greatest honor of my life. My introduction to politics was through her also. Because when we were a young married family, we moved into a neighborhood, and she said, you know, we need to start a neighborhood watch. We got some things going on here. And so we did, and she started that. And because she did that, the city asked her to be a planning commissioner. And one day, Commissioner Coleman came home and said, you know, one of us has to run for city council. We've got kind of a corrupt city manager, and we need to get him out of there. And I'm a full-time mom, so it's going to be you. So she ran my campaign, and I'm like the least political person anywhere. And then later, I came home from work one day, and she said, you know, our schools are really bad out here. And we've been working with the district, and they're just not going to improve at all. So we're going to build our own school, because you can do that now. And so I'm like, what are you talking about? People don't just build schools. And then finally, after I was done being a member of the city council, she said, you know, you really need to run for the State Board of Education. I'm like, Kim, why do you keep making me do this? You're better than I am. And so finally, she sat down with our family a few years ago and said, look, after we had moved to West Jordan, and we've been here for many years now, she said, well, I'm getting some people asking me to run for legislature. I'm like, finally, you've put like 10 or 12 people on the Hill. You're a great campaigner. Why don't you do it? So she beat the incumbent with 74% of the vote. And that's kind of just the way she rolls. Now, it's not that she's political, though, and I use that word intentionally. It's because she's just like all of us. But you've probably heard the quote about people that are successful are like anyone else, but they just stay with it a little bit longer than everyone else. That's how she is. I'd use the word tenacious, but it's kind of an understatement. We have a joke in our house and a little phrase that anything worth doing is worth doing to excess. And so, you know, she ran for the legislature and has been every bit what I thought she would be and more. And as a champion of free speech, as a champion of the free markets, sometimes I'm on the Hill because I work for the State Board of Education now, and I have to go up there for something, and I walked out and I saw a lobbyist said, come here. You know, your wife's over there in the middle of that crowd, and I couldn't see her because it was a bunch of suits standing around, and I looked closer and looked inside the ring of fire, and they were just tearing her apart on a bill, and she was almost smiling as she responded to them one at a time, and I said to him, you think she needs help? And he goes, oh, no, she's got this. In fact, those guys are the ones that are outnumbered. And so I want to just acknowledge real quickly, I know you're not here to listen to me, my family that's here, they are awesome, mostly because of her. My oldest son, Hunter, would you raise your hand? His wife, Roxanne. My daughter, Hannah. Joey, who is our 16-year-old, and right next to him is Dallin, our youngest. These guys are all 100% behind her, and they have been fantastic. It's not easy. But when she started thinking about this a year ago, I wasn't crazy about the idea. And when I saw people like us, our neighbors, people from the west side of Salt Lake County, the west side of Utah County, this district, come to her and say, really, you're one of us. You're not one of this elite class. You're not part of the problem in this country. And you've always done a great job of just being what we need to be up on the Hill and representing people. I believe there's a time, I won't get into the details, that she single-handedly stopped a huge tax increase, and it wasn't this most recent one that she voted against. It was previous. In a closed caucus meeting, the press was not there, you would never know about it. But her colleagues have told me, wow, we were going down the wrong path, and when she stood up in that caucus and reminded us all that maybe we're not thinking with the same mindset as all the people we represent, silence. It ended it, and it killed it for that entire year. You can't always hold it off forever, but it was pretty awesome to hear that. Before she was even in office, she made sure that the prison wasn't coming to West Jordan. I mean, I could just go down the list. But today I just want to introduce you to my wife, who's awesome. She's bright, she's capable, and most importantly, she's still humble and very genuine. And she doesn't know how to be any different. She couldn't be any different if she tried. It's just who she is. I think most of you know her. It's awesome to see your shirts on. I'm really excited for the next 10, 11 months. I can't wait until the first week of November. But on the way, here we go. We're off and running. So let me introduce you to the most awesome person I even know on the earth, Representative Kim Coleman.
wasn't fair, because that's going to make me cry. Let me just start by saying thank you for being here today. And Casey, I don't remember the conversation going that way. I'm pretty sure I was the one saying, you're going to do what? Actually, what I really thought was, there's a lady out there who's raising 4 kids alone, and she is praying for someone like Casey. So, thank you for being here today. This is amazing. We're starting. So a lot of you have been helping all along. We've been in this race legally since August, effectively making decisions before that. But we are running. We're in full speed ahead now. You'll see on the walls we've hit some radars of some important groups. We did meet our NRCC designation for young guns, which is something they do the national party to say, okay, you're serious, and we need to watch you, and we want people to know about you. I want to start by, Joel kind of touched on this a little bit, but I want to tell you a story that really has seemed to become a template, I think, for my life. But I was a young mom, we're a young family. We have a little guy, when Hunter was a little guy, just crawling around, toddling around. I had just completed my degrees at the University of Utah, psychology, sociology, and criminology before CSI made it cool. And something was happening across the street that was not okay, and I knew what it was instantly. It was not okay. Cars were coming, they would stop for 2 minutes at a time. My neighbor would come out of his apartment, lean in the car, if something happened for a minute, and the car would leave, and that happened all day, all night. And dang it, I knew what that was. And we're a newly married couple. We've just sunk everything we own into this property, and we're raising a family. And you don't get to do this in my neighborhood. You don't get to do this to my family. You don't get to put my family at risk. You don't put my property at risk. You don't come in here and you mar this community. You don't get to do that. So what do? So we start logging the activity. We're tracking what's going on, taking some pictures, recording license plate numbers, times, dates, go to the city and say, hey, look at all this evidence. Of course, it's not evidence for them. But I said, what do I do with this? They said, start a neighborhood watch. Okay, how do I do it? So we got some neighbors together, and we had all kind of been talking about what was going on across the street. And so asked a neighbor to, will you host it in your backyard because you mow? And then I'll make the invitations, and I pass them around. And then I get to my neighbor's house, and I knock on his door, and he opens the door, and I put an invitation in his hand. And he says, well, what's this? And I said, we're starting Neighborhood Watch Thursday night. We're going to talk about your illegal activities and how we get rid of you. He came, and he listened, and he left. And that, as I look back on that, throughout the campaign, people have brought up different things that they remember, and really this is something of a template for my life. That there's a problem. I'm not afraid to step up to it. But right now, there's a new threat to my family, to my home, to my community, our families, our futures. It's a threat to everything we hold dear. Our American foundational institutions of faith, family, and freedom. I'm going to add fairness now, because we have seen fairness tread upon. Now, their activity is getting logged. We're logging that activity. We're watching those logs, and we're discussing what they're doing. And they don't get to do this to our families, to our communities, to our country. So with your help, on November 3rd, 2020, our Congressional District 4 watch will vote Ben McAdams out, and we will take back our district. Why do I want to represent CD4? This is simple, because I am CD4. Congressional District 4, shorten it, because I am CD4. With that toddler still toddling, Joel would come home from his long day of teaching and he would say, I want to raise our family. We were living in Liberty Park area, kind of close to where Ben McAdams lives, not far. But he said, I love these families. The Anfinsons, the Tans, the Christensens. I want our kids to be raised among these families, salt of the earth. So we moved into what is now Congressional District 4 in West Valley. And we chose, at that time in our lives, we chose where we were going to root, where we were going to invest our time. And we raised 5 awesome children and almost 25 years. While Ben chose somewhere else, not in the district, to do whatever he's done. But like Joel said, I trained neighborhood watches, served as a planning commissioner. I supported him as a city councilman, served on PTA. We built a school because you could do that. And then eventually my neighbors asked me to represent them in the Utah legislature, which has been an amazing, amazing honor to be elected a couple times now to serve this city, West Jordan, South Jordan, Harriman. But I don't just live here. I mean, I'm from here. And that, I don't mean that geographically. It means I'm from here. And I look at you, and you're my friends, and you're my neighbors. And Ben McAdams still lives somewhere else in some other district. I don't know about you guys, but I got a little bit of West Side pride. I sometimes get offended that the East Side wants to tell us what we need to do. and tell us how we need to build our communities, how we need to build our homes, how we can conduct economic development. But that doesn't mean Ben McAdams doesn't have a history here. Anybody remember when he served as our Salt Lake County mayor? Okay. Anyone here have a little project called Olympia Hills? Okay. Ben sure was not from this district, and he's not for this district. Mountain Accord. Anybody hear Mountain Accord? Anyone enjoying their optional county sales tax that Ben was a proponent of? You love paying that? How about all the transportation improvements we've seen on the west side in the last several years? How do you like those? Oh, yeah, because we didn't have any. Because we haven't had them. How about these community enriching economic development projects we see all out on the west side? Those? Yeah, shout out your favorite. Yeah, that's the thought. All right. Yeah, let's talk about that. I got to talk about Donald Trump for a minute. It's the most asked question that I get. So I'm just going to talk about him. 3 years ago, Donald J. Trump was elected president of the United States by 63 million people in this country. And at that exact moment, Democrats declared their intent to impeach him. Last month, Ben McAdams and his party shamelessly took this nation to an unprecedented political low by passing 2 articles of impeachment without substance and without legitimacy. Now, I don't know if you noticed how Ben voted. How did he vote? Hey, he voted to impeach the 45th president of the United States, someone that Donald Trump won in our district. In so doing, he voted to nullify those votes of 63 million people and the voters of our district. But he says, hey, he didn't have a choice. I had no choice. You know what? He had a choice. He absolutely had a choice, and he made a choice, and we know what that choice was. He had the choice between representing this district and the swamp, and he chose the swamp. The real reason Democrats must impeach a duly elected president of the United States is because they know they can't defeat him at the polls next November. What Ben and his party need more than anything is to distract the American people with sideshows from what his accomplishments have been. And so no matter what, look at something else, look at anything else other than the president's achievements. Don't look over there, don't look over here. Russia, wait, no, Ukraine. Don't look at what he's doing over there. What are they hiding? Did you see the jobs and economic numbers last month? Over 250,000 new jobs, 50,000 new manufacturing jobs. 16 straight months of 3% wage growth for Americans. Do you know what that means? 3% wage growth. That's more money in people's pockets, more money that they have. But people are feeling that prosperity. Trump promised to slash regulations, cut taxes for families and businesses, take the handcuffs off of domestic energy production, and negotiate free, fair, and reciprocal trade deals to put America's workers first. Promises made, promises kept. Well, these promises are not unlike my record as a state lawmaker. I've sponsored and supported legislation to slash regulations so businesses can thrive. I've voted against tax increases, including this last one. I've supported efforts to allow Utah and our school children to benefit from our energy resources in our state, and I've sponsored and supported legislation that sought to ensure fairness and freedom in the marketplace. Promises made, promises kept. So what is it the Democrats don't want you to see? Lowest unemployment in generations, record stock market and earnings, ridiculous job-killing regulations cut by the hundreds, true energy independence, and that's just a start. Then comes the USMCA, renewal of manufacturing and investment in America's heartland, increasing border security, challenging China and its cheating practices, ending a caliphate, declaring Jerusalem the rightful capital of Israel, making NATO pay more of their part of the protection that America provides. But that's still not all. He's remade the Supreme Court and is remaking the federal bench. Yeah. I would almost say that if he did nothing else, that has a tremendous and untold impact on our future. Life-saving and life-enhancing changes to the bureaucracy of the VA. I've seen that. I'm a caregiver for my father, and I've seen those improvements in the VA. He feels it in the quality of his life, and I have firsthand experience with that. He's won the fight to rebuild our military after 8 years of neglect and pushback, and he's taken measures to curtail political correctness and restore freedom of speech on our college campuses. And if you know anything about me, this is my passion. So as the chair of the National Center to Protect Free Speech and a dedicated advocate for fundamental freedom, I'm happy to have a president who is standing up for this and reversing and resisting the Democrats' effort to tread on this most fundamental freedom. Indeed, freedom to express oneself is embedded within all of our inalienable rights. President Trump has also taken successful steps to lower the price of drugs and to fight opioid addiction. As one of the very few Utahns invited, there's 4 of us actually, to be a part of the American Enterprise Institute's leadership organization, I'm something of a student of Arthur Brooks. He's the author of The Conservative Heart. Because Republicans are sometimes accused of being heartless. It's a wonderful book. On the question of what has eradicated 80% of the world's poverty, the answer is capitalism. Arthur Brooks said this. He said, "I believe it is these same answers that can help lift all Americans and bring us back together as a country." And we're all looking for something, right? We're looking for something that brings us back together. He says, "The point of the American experience is basically a moral consensus that our society should push opportunity to the people that need it the most." That's a Republican. This is our pursuit. And it's predicated upon 2 fundamental principles, human dignity and human potential. I want to be a warrior for human dignity and potential, and that's what it comes down to, says Arthur Brooks. Likewise, I find the basis of why I'm a conservative and a Republican is that I want to be a warrior for human dignity and human potential. And that's found in our party and in our belief system. It's also the charge of my faith. Trump also understands this, and he's helped millions of Americans to replace the misery of welfare with the satisfaction of a job. He's created 14 million training positions, child tax credits for 40 million, and tax cuts for 100 million Americans. This is the strongest peacetime economy in the history of America. Now, it's not by accident. It is a result. It is the result of free market principles that our Republican Party has claimed to espouse, but sometimes miss the mark and don't always execute. But President Trump has actually done it. And my record as a state legislator demonstrates my commitment to these very free market principles, such as allowing car companies, this is a novel idea, allowing companies to sell their car in Utah. Also, I know we have some raw milk drinkers, but here's a novel thing. People want to drink raw milk and some people want to sell it. I had legislation to actually let them do that together. And the cream and butter, we already allowed raw milk, but the cream and butter part. And also not making criminals out of people who want to rent their cars. Toro and companies like that, we were criminalizing these people. But with all that, I want to share with you the thing that I like about President Trump the most. And we have a laundry list of his accomplishments and things that make America better now under him. President Trump ended the Obama American Apology Tour.
Yes.
Because I am unapologetically proud to be an American. And I want you to say that with me. I'm proud to be an American. But the only answer Ben McAdams and his party had was, okay, let's impeach the guy. Seriously, let's impeach the guy. First, and that brings us to some events of the last couple days. Some of you have asked about that. None of us takes military action very lightly, especially taking a human life very lightly. We pray for our servicemen and women, and thank you to those of you. I see a few of you in here who have served our country. Thank you. And we pray for their safety. We pray for their families. We thank them and we honor them and we want them to be safe. But it's been stunning to see the reaction of the other party. Our president, having issued a full warning, took courageous action to eliminate a clear and present threat. And the Democrats want to apologize for that. Absolutely crazy. Just curious, have any of you thought to yourselves in the last 48 hours, gee, you know, if only Elizabeth Warren was our president? How about Joe Biden or Bernie Sanders? They would be keeping our country safe and keeping our Americans safe. I don't think so. I'm glad that Trump was in the Oval Office when that intel came through. And I'm glad that we have a president who does not apologize for protecting Americans' lives. So I'm sorry if that sounds partisan, because it shouldn't be. The left seems to have abandoned all common sense morality. Are we really discussing whether practitioners should be required to give comfort care to an infant that survives an abortion? Worse, are we really having a conversation about whether it would be infanticide to kill it after it survived an abortion? Things are upside down. I'm sorry if that sounds partisan, because it should not be. Some have said to me, good friends have said to me, Kim, why does it have to be so partisan? Can't you just be willing to compromise, reach across the aisle? I get it. I understand why we feel that way. I also don't like the partisan rancor any more than you do. But I'm happy to work with the other side when I can, especially when there's a hand coming from the other side. I co-sponsored successful free speech legislation with former Senator Jim DeBackus, and believe me, that is a wide aisle to reach across. And I also vigorously fought for the passage of Democrat Marie Polson's bill to prohibit, and I don't know if you heard about this one, this boggles my mind. To prohibit private persons from putting a tracking device on your car without your knowledge or consent. We failed. So there are people who can, private persons, without subpoenas, without court orders, can put tracking devices on your car. Google it to know what to look for. I'm going to see how many of you look under your car when you go out to the parking lot. We weren't successful, but I fought for Marie Polson's bill because I believed she was right, and I didn't care what party she belonged to. She was right, and I was in a minority in a vote with a minority party. And most recently, I found myself standing with all the Democrats and just a few Republicans who voted against this current tax reform bill. Albeit for different reasons. But I've done it, and I'll do it again, because I'm far more about ideas and far more about ideas than party. It just so happens that the things that I believe in the most they find their home in the Republican Party as a conservative and as a compassionate conservative with a conservative heart. I do pray one day that we can return to that version of politics, where at least it can be more respectful, where a little bit more kindness. Watch Facebook don't watch Facebook, because there's some words that I've never been called before till now. But we've endured 3 years of nonstop resistance. We've now endured a sham impeachment. That was created out of whole cloth, based on nothing, and passed entirely by one party. That is something America's never done before. And it wasn't AOC and the squad that put Nancy Pelosi in power. You know who put Nancy Pelosi in power? Is Ben McAdams and 30 of his cohorts who won seats in Trump-winning districts. And put a gavel in Jerry Nadler's hands and in Adam Schiff's hands. That's got to change. We're going to change that. None of this. And none of this happens if the Democrats are in power. None of this happens if Democrats have the majority. And they lied their way into this majority, but the truth is going to boot them out. And I'm sorry, I wish it was different, but that is the way it is. Months ago, while we were making this decision to run, there's a thing that happens where I don't know if it happens to everybody, but to me, where I was being encouraged to do it. And I thought, okay, I started going through the motions of it, but the time came where I had to ask myself, why do I want to do this? Really, what motivates me? It's got to be a lot more than Michelle Camp saying, hey, run because you're great on Second Amendment rights. So I remember it was dark. It was 2 o'clock in the morning, X-Files late night just ended, and I'm staring up at the ceiling and asking myself, what is my motivation? And it was easy. It came instantly. I'm a mom, and I had 2 boys in the next room, and I realized we are not talking about marginal tax rates. We're not talking about a better health care plan. We're not talking about better immigration policy. We are actually talking about the very, very future of America, and the stakes are high. The stakes are high. That's when I knew the stakes are high for those 2 little boys, for my 3 other grown children. And we're no longer arguing over the trivial things in the margins. This is about what we are going to be, who we are going to be as a country. Will we even be a country? Will we even be a country? And if so, what does it look like? There are people in Congress right now with absolute contempt for the most fundamental things that make America great, and they would fundamentally transform this country. Don't get between me and my kids and their future and their best hope for prosperity, because I'm a mom. I'm a grizzly mom if you're Copper Hills kids out there. Don't get between me and ensuring that my kids have a free and prosperous future. Congress is a two-team sport. Members of Congress have to choose a side, and it doesn't matter how close you are to that middle line. You have to choose which side of it you're going to be on. And you can't just say, I choose this side. I'm just really not like my team. I'm not like the rest of my party. The side Ben McAdams chose is not a side that can possibly represent this district in this country, in this state, because that's not who we are. Just have a look at the presidential debates and look at where they want to take this country, the leader of that party, how they do want to fundamentally transform this party and this country, and that is the direction they want to take us. But I will fight toe-to-toe and tooth and nail to keep that from happening. Will you join me? Yeah. It's time to restore Utah's 4th Congressional District to Republican hands, not because we're Republicans, but because of who we are and because of what we believe. And it's time to restore balance between the people of this district and their elected representation in Washington, and I'm prepared to do that with you. I'm truly humbled. I get weepy sometimes, more so in the last couple months. And I sometimes look in my living room, there's a bunch of people, and I go, what are you guys doing here? What's everybody doing here? We have a big thing to do together that we're going to do. And I'm just humbled by your confidence, and I'm so thankful for your willingness and all the hours that people have put in to dive in and help, and I will do everything I can to live up to what you want in a representative. But I do need your help. Today, this is our backyard congressional watch meeting, and we are discussing McAdams' activities and how we're going to get him to leave our congressional district, not in our district, not in our state, and not in this United States of America. And please join us. KimForUtah.com. Go to KimForUtah.com. We've got volunteers all over the place. Please sign up. It's hard for us to loop you in. We do need your help. We need everybody's help. We need funding. We need financial help. Lots of things you can do. There are things that take minutes. There are things that will take your hours if you give them to us. But thank you for being here today on a Saturday, and thanks for all your help. And please sign up, and thanks Casey and the team. Raise your hand if you're on our kitchen cabinet, everybody. So they will help you. Just amazing volunteers. We are so blessed to have this amazing group. But thank you for being here today.